Okay, I think we're live, guys. So welcome everybody to our first virtual info feast of this season. Peter Paul is offering our info feast virtually right now while we're transitioning and everybody's accommodating to COVID currently. So we have today what we're calling the power of homeownership, and we're going to be talking about the positives of and the opportunities and the potential that our community has to become homeowners, and why it's important to us, and why it matters in the season, and why it matters for our community. So we have some really excited panelists today who are going to help us talk about that and share their experiences with us. First, I want to kind of just give us some context to what we'll be talking about, and then we'll get started. So this series is going to cover, today we'll talk about the power of homeownership, and then on October 16th, in 2 weeks, we'll be back again at noon, and we'll talk about the power of gun violence prevention and trauma resilience. Then on October 30th, we'll return for the power of my vote. And then on November 13th, we will be back and talk about the power of higher education. And each time we'll have a different set of panelists who are both residents and, I like to say, on some level, experts about these situations, and will help us kind of frame why this stuff is important for our community. So we're hoping that you don't just join today, but that you'll be back and continue with us through the series. Each time we're doing a raffle for our participants. So if you're here today with us, we'd ask that you let us know in the chat. Put your name in the chat. My email will be available there too. So just email me and let me know that you were there so that your name can be put in our raffle for participating with us today. So Peter Paul, of course, our whole goal is just to support our East End neighbors. We want to make sure that we're all educated and feel empowered to reach our goals, to do what we want to do when we feel like that's possible for anybody in whatever stage of life they are. And so we do that through educating the child, engaging the family, and empowering the community. And so today that is our goal, to empower the community. And we exist to bridge individuals, organizations, and communities to build connections while engaging in topical conversations designed to move us collectively from awareness to action. So that's what we're hoping will happen today, that you'll have some new awareness of things, but it will also move you to action. Also in the chat, you'll be able to see how to stay connected with the organizations who are here, as well as how to stay connected with Peter Paul, so that as you're working to move toward action, you have support to do that. The chat is open for people to ask questions and leave comments. We do ask that we honor each other's voices, honor each other's experiences, and honor purity of motive. So we're assuming that everybody's comment, question, or concern is from a pure heart, and that we all are looking out for each other's best interests. And so today on our panel, we have Carolyn Lofton from Urban Hope. We have Nikki, please help me pronounce your last name, from Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. Could you tell me how you pronounce your last name?
Any way you pronounce it, it's fine. I have sat with this for a long time, but it's Diadamo Damery.
Wow, Diadamo Damery. Did I get it right?
But yeah, but Nikki is fine.
Thank you so much for doing this today. And then we have Ms. Cotina Brake. She's our parent panelist. She just recently purchased her home, and she's going to kind of give us some experience, some insight on her experience and what that was like for her and why that was important for her. So we just have some questions that we're going to just kind of talk through and be as organic as possible. We're all residents. We do represent our organizations on some level, but we're all residents the same, and we all have our own experiences. So I want you to feel free to discuss that from your own personal experience. So to get us started, I'd just like each of us to kind of say why you were excited about joining this panel, or why you feel like homeownership is something important to talk about in this season. Just kind of give us an idea of a context of why you are here. And we can start with Ms. Brake, if you don't mind.
Good afternoon. And again, my name is Katina Brake. I'm here because I just recently purchased my first home, July of 2018. And I'm here to represent my families that are in the communities, the low income communities, um, to be an example that home ownership is within your reach. Even if it's not tomorrow, even if it's not next year, it is still within your reach. And to try and help you take the steps to get there by sharing my experiences, sharing my resources, and different things that could possibly, of course, in the future, land you your first home.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Nikki, would you like to share?
Sure. I'm Nikki with the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. I am super excited to be here today. I think homeownership is important for lots of reasons. One, it's the main way that most people build wealth, both for your family now, but most importantly for your kids and future generations. And so I think it's a really important way to think about that. I also, I think homeownership is important because it gives you control over where you live and a means of creating security for yourself and your family. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And Miss Carolyn.
Hi, once again, I'm Carolyn Lofton, and I am here because as a child of a single parent, I know what it's like to have issues with forging relationships from frequent moving because of housing instability, but also as a single parent of 5 children myself, understanding, just thinking about their future and, what their lives will look like as they watch me embark on my own journey. And so I'm just eager to help families that look like me and look like, the families that I work with to realize their potential in home ownership, whether it's, hey, do I really want to own a home? Is that for me? I definitely believe in the power of choice when it comes to housing. And there's a lot of power when you know what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of leads us into to the discussion actually, because I mean, like I said, we don't want to focus on the negative, but there is definitely a generational wealth gap between certain communities, and so I kind of want us to talk about from that focus, like why it's important for people to be thinking about it, especially right now with everything that's going on. I'm not sure that people understand how important that process is, even though it might be difficult to go through how important it is to leave generational wealth for your family. So just from that vantage point, would someone like to speak to that, why that's important? I'm thinking Miss Carolyn might have something to share.
Of course, call me out. No, I think it's super important because with the state of our country in like a global pandemic, but also in uproar with racially charged, protesting and situations that just continue to haunt us every day. It's extremely important because with the pandemic comes, loss of jobs, loss of income. And then with the unemployment kind of dwindling down from the extra $600 supplement that people were getting, is making it increasingly hard to pay rent. And so even though we have an eviction moratorium out until the end of the year, I believe it is, landlords are finding other ways to evict people. And then with leases ending, kind of towards the end of the year or close by, like they're using those loopholes to get people out of properties in a time where home is completely essential right now because we all have to be at home. Most of our kids are homeschooling. And so having power over the land that you reside in gives you a lot more access to programs that will work with you, that will assist you, but also it's harder to foreclose on a home than it is to evict a tenant. And so with home ownership, it provides you access to more choices when you do find yourself in sticky situations. So right now is the time while you're at home to really be thinking and forward, planning about, how am I going to enter into the realm of home ownership?
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to speak to that?
Sure. And so that the building the wealth, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Of course, it was a dream to own a home, but I honestly did not get the full concept of what owning a home could be and could look like, not just for me and my children, but for my grandchildren and their children. So starting to think ahead of time. And I know that can be hard sometimes. I've been there where I can only look from day to day at what was going on, depending on my situation. But once I could clear my mind and could look into 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years, purchasing a home was actually one of my best investments that I've ever made. And so just wanted to, of course, put out there and have you think about your children's children and their children, and think about the legacy that you're going to start within yourself. That's huge. That's big. I understand that a lot of us may not have come from wealth and silver spoons was the language that, my parents used. And we may not have come from that, but we can stand on the foundation and we can start building for our generations to come.
Awesome. Thank you.
I just want to follow up on what Carolyn said, something Carolyn said, and just from a strictly financial perspective, yes, it is much harder to foreclose on someone than to evict someone, but you also have a resource, a financial resource in your house. You have the ability to sell your house if you need to and either downsize or extract cash. You can refinance, and there are assistance programs for even staying in your house that are, you have a little more leverage to get those funds, I think, as a homeowner. So those are some additional reasons why it's really important to own a home in a time like this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And as we're saying this, I hear people saying, but is it possible? Like, we can say it's better. We can say we're leaving something for our kids. We might even say, I've heard people say the mortgage might be cheaper than all of that. That sounds great. But is it possible? And so for the person who's thinking, is it really, do you feel like it's attainable, widely attainable? And what are like some realistic goals that people can make toward homeownership that feel maybe further away from it? Feel free to go.
So the goals that I pretty much went with was, realizing where I was spending unnecessary money at. Also starting small. I actually had a job that I only worked 2 hours a week, and that paycheck was $25 a week. Wow. And instead of me saying, and which I couldn't live off of that, but what I could do was not take that money out of the bank and just let it accumulate. And eventually it's going to turn into way more than $25 a week each week that you leave it in there. And so the other thing is, it is attainable, but you also have to have self-control. You have to have discipline. You have to write down your goals and then also follow up, hold yourself accountable for what you're not doing. And then, pat yourself on the back for the small things that you do change. Your finances, take some credit counseling classes. The city of Richmond have a lot of free credit counseling classes. So get involved in resources and programs within your community, and allow these people to help guide your path and help you set your goals, because it was a time that I didn't even honestly know what my goals were. And so just having that extra help from an expert or from someone who knew better or who already experienced trying to obtain home ownership helped me a lot. My most major come up though was my spending. controlling that spending. And I don't know what that's different for everyone, because what if we have someone who said, I'm not spending, I don't have anything to spend. If you live in, I know this is not completely about RRHA properties, but if you live in any based on income property, it's based on your income. So if you get an increase, if you get a raise, guess what? Your rent go up. And so, if you had to, I know we're in a pandemic now, but if you had to pay daycare, if you have a vehicle or not, either way, if you're traveling to work, though all of those things are expenses. But I still encourage you to try to save something. Start somewhere with saving and self-discipline.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody else want to speak to that?
Oh, I wasn't sure if Nikki was going to go, but I was trying to hold it in. I am like the cheerful, obsessive, optimistic, and I just operate with the ideology that anyone is available and able to, pull it off. I just think we're lacking, a few things that we might need to, realize the potential inside of us. And I just feel like with direction and education, and then like enlightenment, being able to see, okay, what are the possibilities out there for me, and being able to pick and choose from, what is available, that kind of helps us get direction to, where we want to go. I think the most beautiful thing about the time that we're in right now is that everything is pretty much virtual. So if you are a person who is open to learning, you can definitely increase your income just by sitting at home, learning how to drop ship stuff, through a business. Like right now is the time for small business and learning how to function as a separate entity from, being tied down to a job. So like our earning potential has opened up. The playing field is kind of leveled out for all of us to be able to do things directly from home, because we're being forced to right now. And if folks would take advantage of that, I think that, the earning potential would increase for a lot of folks. But then also having a support system of people who also believe in you or who know the way. Just like Katina was saying, a lot of what she learned was from someone else who had already took that track and went forward and showed her the ropes. And a lot of times, that's the one thing that's like separating us from, the goal that we're trying to achieve, is just having a close network of people who can be, directors, but also championing us on. And so I feel like with the right tools in your little Batman equipment belt, you could do anything. And home ownership is definitely one.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with you plugging your class right now. I think that's helpful.
I wasn't trying to hijack, but also like, hey, if you guys are interested in someone who is willing to walk with you and, coach you along the way and be like your biggest cheerleader, Urban Hope has a financial management class that meets once a month. And we definitely get down to the nitty gritty on that spending and like what's a real emergency and what's a made up emergency. Because in my view, there are no real like emergencies for real. Like every now and again, you'll have something that's truly an emergency, but most stuff is just like, oh, you just forgot that Christmas came on December every year, And I can say that as a person who had to challenge myself. But if you're interested, my information is in the chat box, as well as Sharika can direct you to Urban Hope to get connected to our class. We do a group meet and we kind of, check in with each other from time to time. We do everything on Zoom, so you don't even have to leave the comfort of your living room or your bedroom. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I needed to plug that just yet.
Thank you so much. Nikki, did you want to share?
Yeah, I'm glad you plugged it, because I have only heard good things about Carolyn's class. And so hopefully you can take advantage of that opportunity. I think there are a lot of opportunities out there, and some are easier to access than others. We've had a lot of luck with folks working with Catholic Commonwealth Charities. They have a credit counseling program, and they work really intensely with people to address credit and some budget issues. And then, of course, there's Southside Community Development and Housing Opportunities Need Equal. They both do homeownership counseling. I also I think it takes you may have to like kind of get yourself psyched up for it, but I think it's never too early to start talking to a loan officer either. If you're interested, and have them look at your finances in addition to doing all of the other things that others have suggested, because it may be hard to hear at first when they say, well, you've got to do a lot more work before you get there, but you know where to start. And I think it can be a good place to start as well. And then, there are other programs that are, I'm going to tout Habitat for one is a great program because it's a longer term. You have to commit for 18 months. It is not a short turnaround, but that can be another access point. And if we're also plugging programs, we have MWCLT has just started piloted a new lease to own program. It is their homes here in Churchill, and those homes are intended to work with the family for 12 months while they address credit issues and savings. There's an escrow account that is built up through rent, and then hopefully by the end of the year they're able to purchase the home in the program. And so there are opportunities, and if you are interested in any of them, just reach out and ask, and people are happy to tell you more about them. So
awesome. Thank you so much. We had a question also from the chat, and we may have answered some of it. It was asking about first-time home buyer programs, but also what you would recommend for someone saving for their home, considering what a deposit looks like and what home repairs factor into that. So if you had some, and kind of speak to not just that, but like when I'm hearing you say about these programs, I'm hearing months, like 12 months, 18 months, maybe speaking to what it means to make that, it sounds like a long time when you say it, but I mean, we're going to be here in 18 months one way or the other, right? So whether that we put that time in and that work in and trying to save for that and the time we have to put in, if we could speak to that a little bit. Anybody?
I kind of feel like it goes into the next question that you gave for us about contemplating home ownership. And my answer for that immediately came to mind is counting all the costs. I go to East End Fellowship, and Pastor Don says that so much, and I'm like, what does that really mean? And when you are trying to do a big step like purchasing a home, like you have to weigh all the costs. And I don't mean to get business term in here, but I could hear my economics teacher saying, does your marginal cost outweigh the benefits, the marginal benefits? And so really thinking, all right, so this is a big thing. What is it going to cost me? What am I going to have to sacrifice along the way to get there? What am I going to have to commit myself to, in order to get there? And is my situation bad enough for me to feel like, that's something that's worth it? Because I truly feel like change and reorienting your direction from renting to home ownership starts in the mind. Because I feel like if you tell yourself this is too hard, I can't do it, it's too many things, they want too much, I just can't, you won't. You absolutely won't. And so the first thing that I think about when I think about, doing the trek to home ownership is like really taking inventory of how bad is my situation right now? How would my situation be different with owning a home versus renting right now? And then am I willing to do the work that'll get me there? Because if I break things down in smaller chunks, it seems less daunting. And so if I could just organize my thoughts about changing my finances, I think, I would have a better chance of actually doing what I set out to do.
Actually, I think in the question, she gave a target number of $5,000. Does that sound like something that somebody needs to save? Could that be the goal that they're working toward? What is a realistic amount?
Yeah, first-time homeowners, there are a lot of grant programs for first-time homeowners. But 5,000 that's a great cap to have. And what you don't use out of that for a portion of your down payment, or your closing costs, then you put that in a pot for a homeowner, for the house. That's the house pot, that's the pot where you go, and that's separate from your furniture and all of that. That's like you can start as your emergency fund for your home. But just to go back a little bit and piggyback off of Carolyn, that is so true. It can get very stressful. You can and more than likely have those doubts of, am I doing the right thing? Why do they need all of this information? And just to put it out there, they want information to, I want to say this, I don't want to forget this. Your money has to be accounted for. And so a savings account, a checkings account, you cannot just go and put $5,000 in the bank and not, it not have a paper trail on where it came from. So start your savings account and let it can build up to $5,000. But they're going to want to know, where did you get this 5,000 to make that type of deposit? So paper trail. If you share an account with anyone, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your child, whether it's your mom, joint accounts, they want permission from both parties to be able to look at that account. What are some other things that I just was like, oh my God, this is really a lot. Your bank statements, of course, your pay stubs. Geez, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think of some things that I can put out there so that when it hits the person, they can already have an idea of, what to look for that they're going to be asking for.
Can I ask you, I hear you saying, could you mute for a second? I hear you saying that all these things had to come up. Could you mute? Yeah, I think that if we're both on, that's what happens. I'm sorry. No, but I hear you saying that you had to do all these things, and then it's a list, and you're still trying to remember the things. And so I wonder personally, what made you continue to do that? What made it something that you wanted to push for?
So having a better living situation. Again, the wealth part did not dawn on me. That may sound crazy, but I like to be completely honest. The wealth part did not dawn on me until I actually start seeing the escrow and seeing the growth in my investment. My number one priority was to get to a better community. I know that crime is everywhere, but there are some red dot areas where there is higher rate crime than others. And so mine was a safety net, to get to a safety net, and just actually honestly wanting something different for me and my children to be able to experience. So it was well worth it for me. And there were some times, I'm honest, I cried. There were some times I had some sleepless nights just thinking that things wasn't going to go into play. It wasn't going to be right. My anxiety was to the roof. But as the days went on, doors, of course, start opening and opportunities, and it started to look better. It started to look attainable. And of course, I was doing my part. I was going to the credit counseling classes for 4 hours, for 8 hours. I was getting my certificates that they call for. So I was basically being obedient, to what was needed to be done to purchase my home. If I don't provide these things, I can't purchase my home. And that was my ultimate goal.
Thank you.
Would you say that you were sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Can I say that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
will Carolyn, you read it. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm gonna tell you something else. I was sick and tired of procrastinating. I was sick and tired of running my mouth saying what should be done, what could be done, what I could have done, what I should have done. I was sick of looking back on how quickly 5 years had passed me by and I was still in the same situation, same boat. And so I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I finally did something about my situation.
Yeah, and that's actually very common when it comes to behavior change. And I noticed because I read about it, and it's one of the things that has frustrated me, as a single parent and through my life. We have to get to the point where we just don't want to deal with what we already have right now. And that propels us forward. And I see that, as I think about what's playing out in the world right now with all the activism that's going on and the protesting, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's what's spurring all the action. And for me, that's why I say it always starts with your mind. Like you have to be done and over with your current situation to propel yourself to even say, you know what? I'm done paying double the amount for rent, that I could be paying half of this for a mortgage. Like you really have to evaluate your full situation so that you can see what's going on to give you that sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. I also wanted to give Nikki an opportunity to speak to that, as well as we had a question that from the chat that's asking how far back would they investigate your bank information? If I wanted to start like lining up my bank information, how far back would I be looking for? So if you could speak to the original question and maybe to that one as well, appreciate it.
Sure. And I will say that I am not a loan officer, but I do work with them. One thing I wanted to say about the $5,000, I mean, if you can accrue $5,000, if you can save up $5,000 and have it in a separate account, that's amazing. But I always don't feel like you have to have everything perfectly in line and perfectly saved and your credit score at the perfect amount before you start looking into these programs, because there are programs that will help you get there. And there are programs you can get into a home for way less than $5,000 because there's down payment assistance. Or even with our program, there are some banks that require no down payment. And so if you do have a grant, you can put that towards closing costs. So people are getting into homes with very little out of pocket. But having savings, the disciplines of saving up is great for when you're a homeowner, because as Carolyn said, you kind of need, and Katina said, you kind of need those cushions in place. But I always encourage, if you're thinking about it, the sooner you can start talking to someone who can walk you through the steps about what you specifically need to do, the better off you are. As far as, I forgot the second half of that question. Can you remind me?
Yes, it was how far back would they look into my bank information?
So with when you apply for a program like with MWCLT or some other housing program, we do require 3 months of bank statements. 6 months of bank statements and 3 months of pay stubs, plus 2 years of tax returns. If you did not file taxes, we can get we just need something saying you didn't file taxes. It does not preclude you. It does not keep you from participating, but that's what's required for us. Banks look a little further back. And if you have something like a bankruptcy or something like that, that can cause you to have to wait I think about 5 years before you can get a conventional mortgage. There are programs that don't go back that far. So it just depends on what specifically you're talking about, but you need at least 6 months of bank statements.
I'm sorry, does your program help people with that? Do you guys have like, let's say I start today and I have nothing I need. Is that something that your program helps people walk through, or is it like come back in a year when you figure it out?
You mean you don't have the paperwork, or you don't have you don't have the bank statements?
Let's say I just come to you and I don't know what I need, right?
Right.
Yeah. So would somebody be walking people through what they need, kind of help them gather those things, or how can somebody find resources for that?
So there are a couple of resources. We do help walk people through our application process. And so, if you turn in part of an application and it's not complete, you don't get kicked out of the pool. We just kind of say, we need more documents and this is what we still need from you. If we also refer you, of course, to a loan officer, and the loan officer is going to be also telling you what you need. And we try to keep in communication. And so if you're having a credit issue, we don't do any of that ourselves. We don't do in-house credit counseling or home ownership counseling. We do work very closely with other organizations who do it really, really well. And so we'll refer you to Catholic Charities and kind of try to stay in contact through that process. Other organizations do it differently. And of course, Habitat has a longer pipeline, and they work more intensely through that process with you over the 18 months. So there are different programs. I also wanted to highlight there is a new resource line that's available in Richmond, which you may or may not know of. There is a hotline you can call for housing resources. And I think we can probably share that information. So that should be a resource for you, whether you're facing an immediate housing situation, or you want more resources about the programs that might be available. That's also a good place to start.
And I will also say that if you are a person who knows that your credit is completely jacked up, come holler at me. We can have some real life conversations, and I will look, we will hold hands walking down that aisle together, because I'm just passionate about it.
Awesome. Thank you. And that was actually the next question. Like, how important is that for someone to be working on their credit, or even raising their income? Not just saving for what you have or taking away from the income you have, but how important is it for them to change their level of income and raise their credit score?
So I answered this question in a unique way, and mainly because I'm always reading. Okay, so y'all have to understand when I speak, it's because I'm always reading something about something. I think about what's happening now with the coronavirus, right? I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of businesses are stopping taking actual cash. There's actually a shortage of change, and we've never had a shortage of change, which to me, my mind immediately says, oh, they're not making no more money, because they want us all to go to electronic currency. And so when I think about electronic currency, I think about the people who remain unbanked. And even in an age of Venmo and Cash App, like, there are some people who just don't have a bank card. They don't have any way to, access cash, electronically. But then you got the conspiracy theorists out there who, rightfully so, don't trust a lot of those systems. I recently read an article about a guy who literally hacked people's Cash App, and he was flaunting on Instagram his lifestyle that he stole just from getting menial pieces of information through emails. And so that, that creates an environment that seems very unstable, as well as understanding that your credit gets you everywhere. Your credit tells somebody before they even put eyes on your face and know who you are. If you are a janky person who makes promises and don't pay people back, they will see that on your credit report. And it's like a report card for adults. And we have to look at it as such, saying when we say, hey, can I borrow, X amount of money for whatever from you? When we issue that credit information, we're saying, hey, here's all my dirty laundry. I need you to go through it and see what's clean. And that's not to down anybody who has a bad credit report. It's just saying, you need to start taking more pride in that credit report and making sure that things are good. There are places, freeannualcreditreport.com, that you can get a free credit report from all 3 credit bureaus once a year. If you did that every 4 months, you'd be on top of your credit and understand what's going on. If you take a few moments to just write letters to your creditors, that's a way to clean your credit up and bring your scores up. Not to, judge anybody who pays anybody to clean their credit. That is not real. Different entities use different scores and different scoring mechanisms and systems. And so what somebody might be cleaning up for you on a credit report, that money could have actually went to paying people off, because at the end of the day, if the organization that you're trying to get to help you with a credit situation doesn't score using the method that your cleaners use, you've paid all that money for no reason. And so I try to tell people, you know, you got yourself in this mess, you can get yourself out. But then also your income like levels another side of the playing field. When you have income to support the credit that you're trying to acquire, some places will look past that score because of the income feature. And both things kind of play, you know, hand in hand with each other because so y'all, I'm a little slow, so I like to think about analogies when I'm trying to prove a point or make a point. But to me, thinking about my credit and my income is the equivalent of deciding, do I want to pay $14,000 for a $12,000 car, or do I want to pay $12,250, you know, $12,250? Because your credit score and your income makes that much of a difference when you go into realms like that. When you're talking about credit, when you're asking someone to trust you to pay back money, that's the difference sometimes. And oh, by the way, that's a difference of a 23% interest rate versus a 2% interest rate. And when you talk about your income, your earning, and your credit, that's what you're talking about, is how much am I going to pay on top of what I'm already, you know, paying because of my credit worthiness. And it's super important right now.
Yeah, I like that analogy of it being a report card for an adult. I never thought about it like that. But it's like, I mean, in class, you could pass with a D, but how much are you getting out of this class? And so if my credit score, I might be able to buy a house. I mean, you may be able to buy a house with a lower credit score. You may be able to get a car with a lower credit score, but the interest, I mean, they are making profit off of you when it's done that way, rather than you're getting your profit back out of your house or out of your car. So that's a really good analogy. That'll help me a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it costs to be poor. And yeah, I think that's the saddest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Like, y'all don't understand. Even down to your car insurance. You can pay your car insurance every day on time, every month. No problem, without fail. And when it comes time to renew your car insurance, they can increase your insurance liability based on your credit report. Like, you messing up your credit is a real thing, y'all. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because you can literally go from paying $86 a month for full coverage insurance, all the works, all the whistles and the bells, you get a rental, all of that, to paying almost $300 just by making faulty decisions with your credit in a 6-month time span. That is insane to me. It's like, how dare you charge me for being poor?
But I mean, it speaks to the gap we were talking about, right? So that's why there's such a large gap between what we would call poor and wealthy, because the wealthy know these things behind the scenes. I need to like keep this going. Their money is making money for them in a way that we're not always allowing our money to make money for us. So like it's important to think about, like, we think, oh, it's not just the goal, it's not just to get this house and I got my house, but for that wealth to grow over time, we have to think about those things behind the scenes, though, those disciplined things that cause that money to come in. So yeah, I appreciate us, bringing us to that point. We're at 12:45. We want to be ended by 1 o'clock. So what I like to ask is, thinking about that gap and how important that is, what is something you'd like to leave with the audience today? And I do want the audience to understand that these people have made themselves available. We understand this conversation is much larger than an hour-long conversation. And so that's why we're here. You can reach out to Peter Paul. You can reach out to Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, to Urban Hope. We're all in the community. I'm even going to speak for Ms. Brake. She has really set herself up as an example for us. And I feel like she wants to help the community. So we are available for people with questions, comments, and concerns after today. And we want you to stay connected. But before we go, I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to leave something with our audience. And we can start with Ms. Brake, because that's who's first on my screen.
So yes, I would like to leave with the audience, with the community, to go forward. Push against your fears, your doubts, and go forward, move forward. You will be proud of yourself. You may even be surprised of how much support that you will pull in, the resources that are available in the city of Richmond and the Tri-Cities. Go to Peter Paul. That is the linksters right there. Go to Peter Paul, talk with Sharika, tell her what it is you're trying to accomplish. And even if she cannot do it herself personally, then guess what? She can link you to the connection so that you can get it done. Peter Paul is right there, North 22nd Street. You all know where it's located. Go there. And then she will link you right out. But you will not be disappointed in yourself. The stress is worth it. It's all worth it to enter into home ownership. The wealth. Again, being that parent that you're not saying your children are not already looking up to you, but just giving them something that they can pick up and move forward with. Now they see home in a whole different view, and they can now give that to their children, and just starting to change the mindset. Again, like Carolyn says, it starts in our mind. The finances, everything. For a long time, I always chose jobs that were easy for me to get. I know I can get this job. And guess what? The pay matched that job. And it was very hard for me to save money and climb up a ladder and come up out of poverty with those jobs. When I started to apply myself to jobs that I didn't even think I could be hired for, once I got hired for them, it gave me that confidence, and it gave me that financial stability to be able to change my situation. Again, talk with Sharika. I'm available for you all in the community. I have major connections myself. I'm considered a linkster. If I cannot do it, I would definitely get you to the person that can help you. Good luck to all of you and everything that you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brick. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nikki, you're next on my screen.
I guess one of the things, I mean, some of you have said this better than I will, but I hope people have the confidence to move forward towards homeownership, knowing that there are programs out there to support them. And even if the house isn't perfect, it's the first place. Like, you can make it your own, or you can make it your first, and then you can move on to something else. But everything doesn't have to be totally perfect like it is in a magazine, including your credit, including your income, including your savings. People will help you get to the next step, but bring the mess, start out in that direction, and just like plow through. And I think that's it's a good start where you are, I guess, is the I'd like to say.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Maggie Walker Land Trust definitely does good work. I know a lot of people who have purchased from you guys. And I don't think we really got into exactly how that program works, but it's a really good program. And do you guys have, I know you guys do like an orientation for the program?
Yes, and we have a program. We actually do them online right now. We have them about every 2 weeks. The next one is next Tuesday night, October 6th at 6 p.m. You can find the information on our website, or you can email me directly and I can get you set up with that. And if that doesn't work out for you, we can let you know when the next one is.
Yes, and because I know that your program allows it to be more affordable for people, especially. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that's known for people. Yes. I appreciate that. And Carolyn.
Yes, I think my final charge is just to challenge people to believe that they can do something different than what they're currently doing. Because to me, having your tool belt starts with that belief that I could actually be Batman, or I could actually be Wonder Woman, or I could be Black Panther, or whoever I want to be. Like, I just think about a tool belt is essential as you go in life. It holds things for you. And so collecting the things that are going to be most helpful for you on your journey is going to be extremely important. And then if you don't know what you need, or you don't know where to start, finding those people like the Sharikas and the Nikkis and the Katinas and the Chanels in the community that, have access to the information, or know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, find those folks. I'm definitely like, I love strangers, y'all. So if you want to come holler at me, I love strangers. I love talking about finances. I know you guys can hear it in the way that I talk. I can't help myself. Every time I talk about money, I get on the soapbox because I just feel like it is so important for our community, okay, our community, to get this information, because there are a lot of folks in this world who are trained in this info. And unfortunately, you know, I didn't come from a family that prepared me financially, but I've learned a lot along the way. I also wanted to say is that if you are an advocate for the community or even just a lifelong learner, I have books from the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They have a program that has been installed, that was installed during the Obama administration, tailored and focused on helping people figure out finances their way. I have the whole manual. And guess what? The manual makes you deal with your own stuff before you can go talking to somebody about theirs. I have plenty at my office. Reach out to me. I will give them to you. I think I even have binders for you to put these papers in. And we can go over any of that information. Even if you don't even know what you don't know yet, call me. My number has been given out. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's willing to listen about their potential and moving forward in the process, whether it's affordable renting or affordable home ownership. Wherever you're at, I'm willing to meet you there. And just continue to believe and don't lose sight of that hope that you can do something different than what you got now.
That's awesome. And I can definitely vouch for that. I feel like Urban Hope definitely, I mean, wherever you're starting from, if you're just, I just want to expand my space. I want to move to a different neighborhood, wherever you're starting from. If you're not feeling like you're in a place right now where homeownership is my first step, I do feel like Urban Hope is a place that you can start from the very beginning, wherever you are. If you're just doing that budgeting class, that's important. I mean, it changes your mindset and gets you on the process. I appreciate Ms. Brake talking about what it meant to like start a job that you feel like you could not do. Like it just feels out of your reach. That is the very first step, is telling yourself you can and finding that potential in you, and you'll surprise yourself. I know I've been there. I've been in my house, 9 years now, that I purchased, and my mom was a first generation home buyer. Like, so nobody before her mom, her grandma, they didn't buy houses. You know what I'm saying? So she set that example for me to buy this house, and I'm hopefully setting that example for my kids. And I feel like that's possible for all of us. And so I really appreciate you guys coming on today and sharing with us. I hope we have inspired some people to feel like they can do whatever they want, and that there is a power that belongs to them. And it's not for a particular group of people with a certain amount of money or who came from a certain background, but that we all have access and a right to that power. Again, we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about the power of gun violence prevention and trauma resilience. And so that's something that's huge in our neighborhood right now. And we can talk about the negatives of it, but I believe that there are ways that we can prevent it, one, and two, that we can come back from it, that we can talk about what it means to be resilient in times that seem hard and traumatic and emotional. And so I hope you guys can all come back and be with us. Please don't forget to put your name in the chat so you can be counted as here, so we can put you in the raffle. I thank you all so much. I really do. We got through this and I'm excited. I thank y'all so much for being here. Does anybody else have anything else to share before we go? Any announcements that we missed, anything like that?
So a documentary will be coming out about 5 families striving out of poverty, out of RRHA neighborhoods. The documentary is called Heard. I am featured in that documentary. I would appreciate it if you all, took the time to watch the premiere, which is November the 12th. The premiere would come out. And high hopes that, the documentary about all 5 of the families, help give you that hope to, hey, if they did it, I can do it too.
That's awesome. Where is it going to be premiered?
PBS.
PBS, nice. Okay, thank you so much. That's awesome.
And then I also wanted to say that Urban Hope's financial management class meets on the 3rd Wednesday of every month via Zoom. So if you email me your phone number, we can get you in the group meet, and you will always get up-to-date information on when we're going to get started, as well as links for the class.
And you guys, please feel free to share this conversation with your audiences on your website so that people can stay connected. And again, if for some reason you missed the information that was shared here and you need websites or phone numbers, feel free to give me a call and I'll make sure you get connected with these lovely ladies. Again, thank y'all so much. I thank the people in the background who are keeping the chat for me. I appreciate you guys and y'all have a good day. Thank y'all so much.